again top 8 with me, actually being the one piloting the Yasui versus the Night Rose here. So this week will be especially different since it will be a follow through with me and my reflection about all the games that I had. So I do get to write the grade 1 double R then to search for top 7 but misses. So ironically, you want to write the grade 1 at all because as tempting as a skill is that gives you a potential +1, this grade 1 is actually a very important piece for your grade 3 stand turn. I should be able to demonstrate how it works in these games. So do stay tuned. So grade 3, the Night was actually right. The researcher here misses his grade 3 search, fair card game stuff. He misses mine. He misses his, I miss mine. So in this current Protect meta, Night Rose and Charlotte, and actually even Susanoo is very popular currently. So bringing Yasui to the tournament sort of give me the edge since it's an Excel matchup against a Protect. So it's my turn. I do write to the grade 2 triple R here. I kind of forgot the name, but what he does is actually column +1, so +1, cloning himself, and from the view or the drop. So the additional skill that he has on the Vanguard circle is that if he's on the Vanguard circle, it will +3k to all the same name. So basically, he himself get +3k. So it's actually just 12k attackers. And open a crit here. Very important to push damage, since my deck do run the critical trigger lineup instead of the front, which is the usual one. But this card can be easily replaced. It's just a preference here. I would say it's a rather more of a flex spot, since the standard deck list for Yasui is usually the 13 grade 3s and 4 of the Awazus, and the grade 1 is pretty standard as well. So there's only room for like 4 cards. So these 4 cards can be replaced by Fushimi or 12k at base or even Shira grade 2 searches. So there's a lot of things you can play in Mura. So he's really considering to write the column but here. But he actually writes to the Ghost Ship because Ghost Ship is just a dead card in hand. Calls the column but to the side. He calls the Banshee there. And then replaces it with the Columbat. So maybe a misplay there, instead that he should have used the Banshee to guard instead of the Quick Shield there in the previous turn. So he will still have kept the Quick Shield in his hand. But I could be wrong, the Banshee could have been top deck in this turn. So she uses the Columbat skill to mill Night Rose from drop, and Night Rose from deck to the drop, and then Superior Calling the Banshee here. So most likely he has a Greed Shade in hand to do display. He does call the Greed Shade here while he discards the Cutlass here. Milling 2 more cards, milling another Cutlass and Necrobone. Ouch. Those two are the cards that you want to mill to drop zone, as they both have drop zone effects. So he swings with the Greed Shade. I do intercept. No, I do throw the 5k shield here. And he swings with the Ghost Ship here. I think the reason why I'm hesitant to guard it because if he doesn't, if I do full guard it, he might damage deny me, and that would be not good for Yasui Great Return. So he does swing to my Vanguard still, but I do throw more shields in this process. But this allows me to guarantee column blast for my turn. As for Yasui, going first is very explosive, so we shall see how is it done here. So I do write to the Yasui VR here, which is what you want to see every game, sorry. So I do use the Awazu here, most likely to mill for 1 here. So yes, I do mill the 1 so it does gain the name. So basically currently it's Awazu and 1 here. Using Yasui skill here, I think I am going to call 1 more unit here because I activate the skill a bit too early. Yes, because I don't want to copy the VR to the field anyway, so I do call the Tenma. And I already paid the cost, so I'll be searching for the Tenma and the 1 here. Note that the VR skill actually requires you to target 2 units instead of just 2 names. Or not it'll be very broken since Awazu has already 2 names to himself. So I have to call it 1 behind Vanguard for the boost, for the restand. and one Tenma there. So I do call Tenma to the back. And I do call the third Tenma I had in my hand. So most likely I'm going to swing the Tenma first because you want to have one Tenma in the drop zone, because that is a requirement for the restand. So I do swing the Tenma here, which gets plus 10k upon attacking from the rear circle. And end of the battle, it retires himself and then bottom decks one card in opponent field. So this card is actually very strong against Night Rose because their units usually wants to be in the drop zone. But with this pressure, I can actually bottom deck their Banshees or their Great Shade or even their Column Buds, which they might not have additional pieces in the drop or rather in hand. So I bottom deck the Column Bud here, removing the intercepts here since I already have other Tenmas to swing for the Banshee at the back. So he goes for 2 pass here, Twin Drives. I do get into a Yasuie VR here, which is very important because usually for Yasuie, you want to guarantee another ride for your next turn, since Tenma as a Vanguard is quite underwhelming. And who doesn't want more Excel Circles? So I do swing the Tenma here, Joy checks into another blank. Very unfortunate for me, he does eat to a damage trigger here. Now I'm reconsidering, do I use the 1-night skill to draw 1 or do I use Tenma to push and the bottom deck the Banshee here? So I do choose to use the Tenma to swing, pressure the damage, as well as bottom deck the Banshee, because this is a better play compared to just me drawing 1 card. Because to draw the 1 card, I need to have 5 units on the field. That will also mean that I can't swing my Tenma at all. There is a damage there, and I bottom deck the Banshee. Now I'll be swinging with my last Tenma, which is at least a 5k guard still. Pushing him to currently what it seems to be 4 damage is very important, especially since I'm running critical triggers. So he does try to 9 rolls there, getting a protect 1. So we will see how he will play out this turn. We do see a Necrobone in his drop zone previously, as well as a Cutlass, so he can do quite a bunch this turn. But from the looks of his hand, it's not looking great. It's just triggers and markers. No, actually he does have a Column Bud, so this is going to be very interesting. It's a Column Bud skill here. And do note that Column Bud is a hard once per turn, which is the balance that it needed. Or not, you can actually Column Bud twice in 1 turn using a Nairo skill. Not exactly what Bushiroad wants you to do. Looking through the drop zone, most likely going to mill the Ghost Ship here, since Skull Dragon isn't the biggest unit here currently. Yeah, so he does mill the Ghost Ship. Reconsidering it, I personally feel the better play will be milling the Ghost Ship there or a Banshee, because you want to draw cards against Yasuie, and that's how you actually tempo out with Night Rose. Unless you can aim for the double critical trigger here when you call Skull Dragon, but Ghost Ship does fine in this early stage of the game. So he does mill the Ghost Ship there. Most likely he's going to call the Ghost Ship. He does. So we shall see how he's going to attack. So the interesting play about Ghost Ship here is that you can actually swing the Ghost Ship, retire himself and draw 1 card, and then Night Rose calls it back, and then getting another Ghost Ship at prop, which draws you 2 cards in that 1 turn. So he does use a color skill here, binding himself and super calling himself to counter charge 1 and milling a top deck. Personally, I would prefer the Night Rose being boosted by the Cutlass there, because you hit a magic number for 33k, which not a lot of people will actually take notice. 33k is a good magic number against even decks like Force, and you will most likely want to force a PG out in the middle, because your Skull Dragons or your Red Guards will hit very hard after drag checks, or even without drag checks, especially Skull Dragons. And since Night Road skill specifically wants you to call a specific column, so having a booster behind Night Rose would be better. So it does swing with the Night Road skill here, which is call one column. And then if opponent grade 3, if opponent is on grade 3 Vanguard, it plus 10k. So it does call the grade 3 switcher here. And a Greed Shade. So I would say it's a misplay there. He should have swing the ghost ship there, and then swing with another ghost ship, which will allow you to have 2 extra draws that turn. If I just go for the Greed Shade here, it might be even a better play since he's filtering shields in his hand. So now I have to count how many critical is out, because given my hand size, he's currently only at 4, since I didn't draw much with one eye in the previous turn, or rather I didn't draw any at all. So as you can see, Yasuie deck does rely on the one eye engine to even draw more to the pieces and shields, especially the fact that I did dry check 3 blanks that turn. I did do a no guard here. He hits a critical trigger here very little. If it's a double crit, it would have ended the game here, but let me spoil you, he doesn't. So in my head I'm thinking like, I can only afford to guard most likely 1 card here, I mean 1 Rotary card here, so I do have to eat a damage trigger here, and I do. Unfortunately for me, I do eat a critical trigger here, so I'm able to guard confidently. So this is a 20k guard, and then I Kanzen is forced to side. So what's left in my hand is just a Yasuie VR, but we shall see how this turn will explode, and revealing Yasuie's potential. I do right to Yasuie VR here, gaining an Excel Circle and drawing 1. I believe I did top deck a very sick card here, which allows me to combo extend. Yeah, actually I did top deck the grade 1 there, which is the Whispering Flower. So what Whispering Flower does, in this turn, will let you see why he's not a preferred Vanguard target. You want to keep it as a rear. So I do use Yasui's skill here to clone 2 units. I do choose the grade 2 and the grade 3 here. So I'd like to make a misplay known to you guys, is that calling the 1-9 is correct here, but calling the grade 2 there would not be the better play, because grade 2 doesn't add anything to the current game state, and especially the fact that I already have 3 Tenmas in my drop zone, so I don't need more than 3. And then it might be better to clone the grade 1 flower there, because I have 2 Counter Blasts, 2 open Counter Blasts to work with, and this is going to be my final turn. So I do a misplay there by picking up the 1-9 and returning back to deck, which would have been the better play is calling the 1-9 there, because 1-9 skill does activate only if you have 2 1-9 on the field. And in its current field state, I only have 1. So the 1-9 in the back row of my Vanguard is actually a vanilla grade 3 that doesn't even boost, which is pointed out by my by the table on the by the judge table. Sorry, by the judge on the table. So I do swing the Yasuie Vanguard here. And if you guys not sure what the grade 1 double R does, which is that when a Yasuie Vanguard this enter the Vanguard, you can actually counter blast 1 to clone 1 of the unit on your field to call from drop zone. So as you can see from my drop zone, I do have 4 Tenmas to work with. So what's going to happen is like, we're going to twin drive first. I do get a blank, but it's fine. Go right into the Tenma here, gaining an accent circle and drawing 1. Using the grade 1 skill, counter blast 1 each to clone 2 more Tenma from the drop zone. How balanced is that? So I was being known that I can't boost with the 1-9 here, so I do reverse the boost here. So it's just a 12k. A simple 15k will be a no pass here, but look at my field, I currently still have 5 more attacks to go after this 10 mass swing. So it would be better if I had the 1-9 there, creating more pressure. As you can see, the last 10 mark is still in the drop zone without being used. So Yasuie deck is actually quite technical and requires you to think ahead before you actually commit to the turn. A misplay such as this that's demonstrated by me could have cost me the game if I wasn't already at an advantage. So the Narrows do actually no guard here. I don't get a critical trigger here, and he doesn't get a damage trigger there, which is very fortunate for me. So now he has to guard against fire attacks with one protect in hand, and it's game over. So now we move on to game 2 with Night Rose going first. So this game might change differently because when Yasuie does go first, the advantage he does have is quite a major one. So he actually rides to the critical searcher here for Night Rose, searching top 5, misses the search, which is very fortunate for me because it could have been a free Skull Dragon filter. So it's my turn, and I do draw, and I ride to the Grade 3 Searcher there, which is the best right target in my opinion. So I do draw first with the right starter skill, searching top 5. I do see a Shira there, and I do pick it up. So what's important about Murakumo now is that since Shirayuki is restricted to 1, having it in your hand at such an early stage of the game does give you the edge. But I do misplay with the Shirayuki in the future turns, so do take note. So I do get a critical trigger once again, very fortunate push. Compared to playing front, critical trigger does do a lot better in the early games. Since front triggers is usually only benefited during the restand turn, which is your most major turn. And if you do not hit any trigger, which was demonstrated in my previous game, it will not have done anything except being a 15k shoes. So he does try to the ghost ship here and using the great ship skill to move 2 and then getting the Night Rose to hand, securing his grade 3 right. So how will the Night Rose player actually pressure the Yasuie here? Since for Yasuie, their grade 2 turn is actually quite weak. So when he does go second, it's quite scary, and that's your only window to push against Yasuie, in my opinion. So he does swing just like this. I do guard the side and I eat the middle, getting 1 damage. And my turn, I do ride to the grade 2 common there and boosting it because I do Blade Crit, so I do want to push damage as much as I can, especially if he does a no guard here. I want him to guard a 20k for full guard here. If he doesn't, if I don't pressure the 8k booster there, a 15k will be a no pass, and that will just remove my critical trigger pressure already. So he does guard for 1 pass and gets punished with the trigger here. Unfortunately, not a critical trigger, but against a Night Rose player, you will want to see Kanzen in your hand as early as possible, given the fact that their columns can be super huge and super balanced. No, sorry, I don't mean balanced, I mean broken. So he does ride to the Night Rose there, and we shall see how his turn is going to come out, because he does guard with the Banshee now, compared to the previous turn when he actually have to sort of like replace his own Banshee to the drop zone, which is a minus of shields in his hand. Does he have a Columbine in hand? Yeah. He uses the Gucci Searcher first. Let's just see where he can Mew. He actually Mews a Grade 3 Night Rose here, which doesn't do much, but it's always good to filter your deck, because the more you filter, the more chances of you opening the trigger. The game of RNG here. So most likely he should be discarding the Night Rose here. He actually discards the Ghost Ship, okay. That makes sense because Ghost Ship is actually a stuck card in hand. Now this player is thinking very hard because this turn is his turn to push and he doesn't want to misplay over here. But am currently at only 1 damage, so I can afford to eat at least 4 damage here. He does swing a Night Rose like this. Most likely his hand doesn't have a column at all, so he does call the most perfect column in the early game, which is the Banshee and the Ghost Ship, which personally it does hit for 24 plus 12, 36, with a 10k boost from the Night Rose steroids, which is 46k at against my grade 2. How balanced is that? It reminds me of the Melody days. But he does open a critical here, and in my thought process currently, I'm ready to eat till 4 damage already. I'm not going to gut anything at all, because if I do gut here, I'm dropping a lot of resources, and I do need the combat to go with either way. So I eat to the one night there, and I eat into another one night, and the Awazu there. This is the most unlucky damage you want to see in a Yasuie turn. So we shall see how I'm going to play this turn. I have to write to the Yasuie VR here. Fortunately for me, I always have it. And then I do draw the Great One Withering Flower here, which is very important for the extender in the restand turn. So I do use the Great 2 Triple here to clone himself. So most likely my hand is not looking the best, because the best hand for, or rather the best restander turn for Yasuie is actually having 1-eye, 2-1-eye, and you clone the 2-1-eye to get 4-1-eye in one turn. But unfortunately, I don't have that luxury of a turn, so I do just go for the Great 2 Triple here to just clone more units to my field, to just fill it up. And it's a filter to the deck, so why not? I had to call the Tenma there, so most likely I'm going to clone now. I'm just going to filter more cards from my from my deck, sorry. So the Great 2 Triple will be replaced with a Great 1 Double R here, which is the Restrict Flower. I do clone a Tenma and the Restoring Flower here, replacing the Great 2 Triple to the drop. So as I mentioned earlier, it's all about the filtering, because filtering does give you more chance to open triggers here. Mathematically, it should be like this. And since I have the luxury of Counter Blast to work with, I am okay to do that. So I do swing the Tenma here first, because I want to clone it back with my Grade 1 Double R. And using the 20k guard to swing first would force him to drop a lot of shields already. When usually people are deterred to do that, they will want to drop shields. I mean, they want to no guard already, which is the trick to push them with critical triggers. So I do make a misplay there. Because I do gain an Excel circle, I do not need to swing the rear guard on the left, Tenma. Now basically my Grade 1 Double on the back is stuck, and that's not looking good at all. But very fortunately, I do dry check into another Tenma there. So actually, the misplay was done because I thought I didn't have Tenma. I mean, I didn't have enough Tenma on the drop zone. So now I do use the Grade 1 Double R's to clone 2 times the Tenma. And I'm putting it both on Excel circles, which doesn't make a difference, because 27k and 30k has no difference against a Protect deck. So both are still requesting for a 20k guard there. So I swing with the 10k guard there first. Given that he's already at 3 damage, I want him to go to 4 before I swing the Vanguard to force the critical trigger pressure. So I do swing with the Tenma there with 20k guard. Current hand size only at, I believe, 6. Yep. I hope to be able to showcase the one night turn in the future games that I might have recorded, to show you how strong and why Yasuie is actually such an underrated deck currently in the format. So he does eat it here, which gives me the luxury to swing my Vanguard first to pressure the critical trigger. And he does use a Protect here, and I do try check a heal instead of crit, which could have ended the game. But fortunately for him, he does eat into another heal himself, so the critical wound have been lethal. So it's Night Rose turn again. How will he plays out? Even with only 7 cards in hand to work with, this is quite scary, especially the fact that I think at this point of time I only had 1 Kanzen to work with, or 2, not very sure, but basically I'm ready to drop all my cards. If he can summon 3 Skull Dragon this turn, it would have been over. Or even the critical trigger pressure there would have killed me. So he does use the column mark here. What will he be milling? Most likely a Skull Dragon or a Negrobone if he already have the Skull Dragon in drop. So he actually trying to take note that he has a Night Mist in the drop, because Night Mist allows you to super call another Skull Dragon, which is very important as a combo extender. So he does mill into his second Skull Dragon, I believe, into the drop zone. So what will he be super calling from the drop zone? Actually Superior calls the Skull Dragon straight away, putting the pressure on me. The Naros player is thinking hard how he should play drop zone. As much as I understand, there is a lot to think about for Naros. But do take note that for top 8 games above, there's always a timer running, and it's not advisable to think too long. And I would suggest Naros players to actually learn the combos in their head already, so that they could do their turns more faster. So you see, as you can see, he's reconsidering all his moves and thinking very hard for his turn. Uses the Greed Shade here, I believe. Yep, he does finally call down the Greed Shade. Going to use the skill to draw PG there to mill 2 cards. And he does mill to a cardless there, which is very unfortunate for him, because cardless is a free regard superior card to his field. Especially the fact that he only has one in the drop zone. He does pick up 30k shoe here, which I believe doesn't make a difference because he's going to drop them for the Negrobone in the future. I mean the coming move. So he uses the cardless skill here, building the top card of his deck and counter charging. So he does mill into another cardless there. Very fortunate for him. It's not milling trigger, so he's technically filtering deck. Uses Negrobone skill here, dropping the the 30k shield he picked up earlier to superior call the Skull Dragon here. So he's now counting a drop zone, which is, I believe, 15. So basically, both Skull Dragons are hitting for 47k alone. That's requesting a 40k card, which is very sick. So he does swing the first Skull Dragon here. So I would like to explain the misplay I did mention earlier in this game, which is the Shirayuki play. There was no reason for me to use Shirayuki here at all, because I could have guarded the Vanguard easily. Not sure why my head was thinking Shirayuki was the better play here, and given the fact that Nairo's players always multi-battle, so there was no reason at all to use the Shirayuki play here. So Shirayuki was used here to minus 10k, and I do eat the damage because I was just ready to guard the Vanguard at this point. So he does swing the second Skull Dragon there, and I eat it immediately because there was no reason for me to guard there, since a critical trigger pressure was there. He swings the Night Rose there, which is 33k, but unfortunately for me, the Cherokee does remove the effect to become 23. Then Superior calling one column most likely the Night Mist here. So he does Superior Call Night Mist and the Skull Dragon there. The Night Mist skill does proc, and given the effect that he has already more than 10 drop zone, he will be able to Superior Call one Skull Dragon. So misplay by me here, why I say it's quite important not to drop a Cherokee here is because the fact that I do have 2 PG to work with, and Cherokee could have been the PG fodder instead of using the Soul Plus 2 there. And I do have 40k Shu in hand, which would have done the same thing basically. So now I'm just throwing over guards, and Cherokee was wasted there. So there was a 2 pass there. The twin drives into a trigger straight away. So now here's his thinking process, whether he should go for the all meat here. Because I was so confident to just eat the first 2 Skull Dragon there, it should have implied to him that I do have 2 perfect guard in my hand ready to guard for the 2 Skull Dragons. But he is reconsidering it, but the obvious and the better play here would be an all meat here. Unless I'm at 4 damage, there is no reason for him to actually think about pumping into the side because the side is already hitting so hard. So reconsidering it. So this turn, this Nairos player is actually thinking quite a lot for the trigger check here, and this is how he's going to Superior Call in his turn. So here I'm really reflecting on how the Cherokee play. There was no reason for me to do a Cherokee play at all. I mean, I have to make use of my time to think about life. Given the fact that he's still thinking, I already have the turn played out in my head. So he does pump to the side here, which is a misplay, but there's no better play since he already does open to I mean, he doesn't get a second trigger there, so I just drop the 2 PG there, and he concludes his turn. It's my turn again, and I do have the Yasuie VR in hand, which is going to secure this turn. So I do call the Great One there, and I will boost it since it's my final turn. And I do use the VR skill to copy 2 units here, which would have been the better play is actually to count my drop zone first before targeting the names because I want to filter my deck as much as possible. So I do choose the Great One Returning Flower here, which is the misplay here because the 4th one is already in my drop zone. So what should I have done is choose the Rainy Madam and the Yasuie VR there. So I will get 2 cards filtered out from my deck, which allows me to have a better chance to open trigger there. I do push up the Great One double R there to push for game since it's going to be my final turn. If he does survive, the the Skull Dragon will have killed me. So given the fact that I do play crit, this when he's at 4 damage, the Great 3 swing, the Vanguard swinging first is going to be lethal already. So I do reveal Cherokee here because I can get it back with the Rainy Madam. And he does no guts here, and I do get a critical trigger here, which ends the game already. Thank you for watching till the end, and do stay tuned for the top 4 and the final game to be uploaded.